In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to implement some basic functionalities with Angular Material. Angular Material is a UI framework for developing UIs, and we will create an application where we will implement some basic CRUD operations. And for the backend, I am using JSON Server, which is a great tool to quickly design a backend without having a knowledge of backend. So if you find this video helpful, then please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed this channel, you can also subscribe it. Hey there everyone, it's Ravindra here. Let's get started. So it is the application that we are going to make, and we simply have this page here which is using the mat toolbar and mat side nav bar, and here we have this form which is displaying in the card. And if I don't type anything here, it will display the validation message. So if I type here a value, then we have this button enabled. So here let's add this value, and we have this success message which will be removed after 3 seconds. Now we can go here in the user section. You will see all of these records, and here we have implemented paginations also. So we can move here into the next page. So if I try to remove this method, it will ask, are you sure? Yes, I am sure, and it has removed this method. Now let's move here in the first page and let's try to edit this record. So I'm just removing one part from here and one part from here, and we are fine. So basically this functionality we are going to implement in this project with the help of Angular Material. So let's create a new project. So right here, ng new Angular Material demo, and set a flag routing, and it will create a routing for you. And next thing is styles equal to SCSS, and it will create a CSS template in this project. So press enter and it will create project for us. Now our project has been created successfully. Now what we need to do, we need to open this project in Visual Studio Code. So let's type this command, code, and name of the project. So our was Angular Material demo. When we press enter, this project will open in the Visual Studio Code. So now it is our project. Now we can run this thing by just opening the PowerShell or command prompt or whatever it is, integrated terminal. So open your integrated terminal, press Ctrl and backtick. It will open the terminal for you, and we can find it here also. Here the terminal, Ctrl backtick, it is the shortcut for it. Now if we write here ng serve dash open, this project will be run and open on the web browser. So it is asking some information for us. I'm typing no, and let's wait. So it is how our default project looks like. So what we are going to do, we are just gonna remove this by default file or boilerplate code. So open this thing and means app folder, and here we have this file app.component.html, and here it has defined all the HTML and CSS files. So let's remove it and just type here hello world. So if we press Ctrl save and go back here, so we will see that all the boiler code has been removed and our hello world has been displayed. Now first thing what we want to do, we want to create the web APIs, and we will do it by using JSON server. So let's click here in the plus icon and open the new terminal. I'm using git bash. You can also use the PowerShell option. Okay, so now let's type here npm install json server, and if I type here the g flag, it will install globally. Now this package has been installed. What we can do, just go here in the root folder, and in the root we will create a new folder and name it API. Inside that folder we will create a new file db.json, and inside that we will create a new JSON file, and it is a kind of mock database for us. First we need to create an object, so it is our object. Inside that we will create a array which is users, and we will define a user's key with a blank array. Now we need to define some objects here, so it is our dummy data. Here it is my first data with id 1, name John, email equals to john@gmail.com. Here is my second record, and here is my third one. That's it. Okay, now we can save this file and close this one. We do not need it right now. Now we need to define our default route for these APIs, so I'm gonna create the file inside this API folder and name it, let's just say routes.json. With this we are creating a default, we are converting our default routes to our custom routes, so we need to define that route here. So we will create an object here and define this path. Now here all the API paths will be started with /API and / and the forward followed by the default path. Now we can say that it will convert our path from this localhost 3000 user /1 to localhost 3000 /API /user /1. Now let's save this file and close it. Now we need to open the package.json file. So here open that file, and we need to write a script here and add this line here. So it will be a key API, and the path will be, the value will be json dash server API /db.json. Routes will be API /routes.json. No course equals to true. So now we can run these APIs, these APIs with npm's run API. Okay, so let's not do this right now. Let's remove it and close this package.json file. Now at the root folder we need to create a file. So here in the root folder we need to create a file proxyconf.json. And sorry, I forgot to put a dot here. It should be proxy.conf.json, and here copy this line here, and we are bypassing our default route with the API. So let's save this file and close this one. Now we need to open this angular.json file, and let's find this section that is serve key. So if we move from here to the down, you will find this section with the key serve. So here we need to define a key here which is called options, and inside that we need to provide the browser target, and it is the name of our project. So it should be Angular material demo. So it should be like this because it is the name of our project. And here we need to write one more line, which is path of proxy config file. So here it is proxy config equals to proxy.conf.json. It is the file that we have created earlier, this one. Okay, so now we need to save this file. Now we are all set with the API end. Now we can open the terminal again, and now we can run these APIs. So open the terminal, and here just type npm run API, and this API script we have defined here inside this package.json file, and I'm not able to find this. Yeah, this one. So here we have defined this script. So what this command will basically do, it will run this command json server dash blah 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 blah. So let's close this package.json file and press enter here. Okay, now it will run these APIs in the localhost 3000. So if I press alt plus click, or how to open it, control dot click event. Okay, all dot click, why it is not opening? So let's just copy this thing. Okay, and okay, it is opened. Now you can see that our APIs are running in the localhost 3000 port. So if I simply type /users, it will display these records. Okay, so and we can also run it with localhost/API/users. Let's just see. And I guess, I don't know, I am not sure that we can do or not, so let's leave it for now. Let's focus on creating the APIs. Now our APIs are running on localhost 3000 port, so we can close this thing, and our server is running here in this terminal, and in this terminal our Angular app is running. In this terminal our server is running, so we need a new terminal. So let's open a new terminal. That's it. So now we need to create some services. So inside the src folder we will write here ng gs, means ng generate service, and let's type the name of folder, which is services / name of service. It will be user. So it will create a user service for us inside the services folder inside the src/app. So let's open this thing, and here it has generated this file for us. But first we need to import HTTP client modules. So go here inside the app folder and find this file app.module.ts, and we need to import HTTP client module here. So type here HTTP client module, and we need to import it from, let's just see, import HTTP client module from angular/common/http. So let's type here angular/common/http, and we need to add a module in feature. So we are doing it right now, which will be forms or reactive forms module. Okay, and it will include this line here, import reactive forms module from angular/forms. That's it. So let's close this thing and let's focus on creating services. Now we can inject this service here. So just type here private http colon http client. Okay, we are fine now. But before that we need to create a model. So type here in the terminal ngg class model slash user model user dot model, and hopefully it will create a user model class for us inside the models folder. So it has created this folder here and it has created a class. We can delete this spec.ts file, we do not need it. So right now let's define some properties here. So first thing will be id, which will be number. Second will be name, and I'm sorry, it should be interface, not class. So it should be interface. So name will be string and email would be string. That's it. Now we can close this thing and now we can create our services here. So now we need to import few modules here. So first we need our user model. So write a line here, and we also need a map operator in the future. So I'm also going to import it here. So first we need this map operator, which we are going to use in the get users method. And this user method, user model, is going to be used everywhere in this service. And now we need to define a method for add and update. So I'm gonna merge add and update into a separate method. So that would be like this. So let's define our add method here. So it is our add method, and here we will check that condition. If our user id is 0, it means we have to use a add method, and if our user id is greater than 0, it means we have to update this. Now we need to define this base url here. So our base url would be /api/users. Okay, now let's define some other methods. So our get users method will be like this, and it will take two arguments, page equals to 1 and limit equals to 10. So it is the default limit for our page because we are going to use pagination in this method. So our default page number will be 1 and page limit would be 10. You can change it to 5, 7 or whatever you want. Now it is an arrow method. So here we need to write this dot http dot get, and here we have to pass the url and this question mark, page equals to page and limit equals to limit, and this thing observe equal to response. We are writing this because we also want a header, response header in the response, so that we can get the count of the data in the database. So this line is used for getting the response header along with the data. Now we need a pipe method, and we have to map this thing because otherwise it will return us this http response type of object. You can see that it is returning observable of http response object. We need to map this thing. So for that we need a map operator, and here what we are going to do, we are going to get count from the response header. So we are writing this line, response.header.get x total count, and this information we are getting from the response header, and here we are passing it to the integer with base 10. Okay, now we are getting the data which we are getting from the response.body, and we are converting it to user model, and we are assigning it to the users. Now we will return an object with count and user. So write this line, return user comma count. Now you can see that now the type of our get users is this observable, which is returning an object with user of type user model array and count. And this thing is needed for the pagination purpose, so that's why I am doing this thing here. Okay, now we need to define two more APIs, so let's write these things. Now we need to define a get by id method, which will be a arrow type function. So here it will take an id as a parameter of type number, and it will return this .http.get type of user model, and inside that we will pass the base URL along with id. Now we need another method which is a delete. It will also take an id as a integer type or number type, and it will also take the base URL as an argument along with id. So here it will be the type of delete. This one was get, and this one was also get, and this one was post and put. So we have merged our post and put method together. Okay, so that's the user service, and now we can close this thing. Now we need to install Angular material. For that we are going to type here Angular material, and we are going to go move their official website, and here let's get it started from there, and it will ask us to do following things. So it will asking us to write this command ng add angular / material, and if I type this command here, it will do its thing. Until then we will look here into this documentation. Here we have these components, and if we want to use any component, like we are going to use the button element, so what we can do, we can click here in the API section and import these line into the app module.ts file, and now we can use these types of button just by clicking on this thing, view code, and here you can find the source code, and you can use any of these button, like button matte button color equals to primary and primary. That's it. So we will go here later. So let's see what is asking us. Would you like to proceed? Yes. So let's install this one, indigo / pink, and press enter here and press Y. Include enable animation, maybe yes. Now if we open this styles.css file here, and if I type here import angular / material / pre-built themes indigo pink.css, and it will import the indigo pink CSS themes for us. We can also find some other themes here, and I don't know, let's see where we can find it. We just go here guides, and here theming angular material, and I guess in the bottom we can find this theming option. So let's see, here some pre-built themes are deep purple amber. So if we need this one, so we can copy this thing and paste here and replace this indigo pink.css with this deep purple.amber.css. Okay, but we need this one, so I'm gonna go with that. Now our theming has been done, so let's create let's create the, what we can say it, this top bar and the sidebar. For the top navigation, we need a component that is called the toolbar. So this toolbar will create this thing for us. So for that, we need to go here and we need to import this thing. Okay, so import it and go to the app module.ts. so where it can be app module.ts file. Okay, so we can import it here. Now copy this thing and paste it here. Okay, that's fine. And we also need this side nav, so I'm also importing this thing from here to here. That's it, and just paste it here. So now we are gonna create this component. So type ng-gc component/nav and it will create a nav component inside the components folder. Right now we don't have this folder, so it will create this folder for us. So here it has generated this thing, nav.component file. Okay, and for that, let's go here to the toolbar and let's pick any one of this. So let's just see, I'm gonna pick this one, third one. So let's go here. It is the, let's see, where is the third one? So I guess it is the third one, my app. Okay, anyway, let's just copy this thing, or we can also go here to the other examples. Here we can find these things. Okay, 1 2 3. So let's go to the third one here also. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this thing once again. So go here in the example section and go here, the toolbar overview, and now here just go to the third one. So it is first one, it is second one, it is the third one. So let's copy this guy and paste it here in the nav.component section. Now if we go here to the nav.component.ts file, you can see this selector here, app nav. So let's see, if we go here, if we have to use this component in the our application, so we need to go here, app.component, and replace this hello world with this thing, nav. Okay, now we are good to go, but we have this error because we need this mat icon thing here. So let's just see where we can find here. It is icon and we need to import its APIs. So let's copy this guy, and let's just see, go into the app module section, where it is, app module.ts file, and paste it here again. Copy this guy and paste it here. Okay, I guess we are good to go. So let's check our application here. So here you can see this thing, we are good here. So that's our basic toolbar or top menu. So let's go here in the menu section again. sorry, not menu, toolbar section. Okay, and from here we have copied this thing. So let's remove these unnecessary icons, we do not need them. So let's remove these two buttons from here. These are the social media icons, and just change this my app to Angular material, or let's just say ng material demo. Okay, let's see the changes. So it is looking like this. Okay, so if I copy this thing from here to here, does it make any effect? No. Okay, I guess it also have the CSS file. So if we go here into the CSS section and copy this thing to the nav component dot, so now we can use that this example spacer. Okay, so now I guess it will create a little bit space here, not little bit, it has created too much space here. Okay, so it is what it is. So I guess we do not need this thing, it is fine in this way. So if we move back to our previous design where we have these two buttons, and let's just see, so it is working fine. But why do we need these buttons? I'm just checking things. So we just need these things. Okay, so I think you might get confused at this point, so I'm gonna redefine these things. First we need this paragraph tag, then we need this mat toolbar, then we are gonna define this button, and this button is showing these 3 lines here. And now we have this icon menu, so this menu icon is showing the 3 lines. Actually it is the work of this mat icon, button is just the outer layer. Okay, so here we have this thing, my app, and that's it. We are gonna change my app to ng material demo. So now it is our application here. Now what we are gonna do, now we need a sidebar, so let's go here to the side nav section and let's pick any simple side nav. So let's pick this thing, I guess. Now we need to define one more component here, which is mat list module, and import this thing here in the next line, mat list module. Now we are good to go. Now open this file where it is the nav.component.scss file, and here we are gonna define some CSS rules. So we need to define the CSS example container height, which will be 500 pixel. Now example side nav content, which will be a flex box, and its height will be 88%. Padding will be 2 rem. That's it. Now we can open the nav.component.html file. Now we need to define our side nav here. For that we need this mat sidebar side nav container. Inside that we will define a class example container, and we have defined its CSS here. Its height is 500 pixel. Okay, so now its property auto size, inside that we need mat side nav, and it is the reference variable for that. It have the side example side nav class, mode side opened is true. Now we need to define the mat nav list, and for that we have defined here the mat list module earlier. Now it is our one link, so if I save it here, we can see this home thing here. Now it has a class side nav item, and it is a mat list item, and its router link is this, and we haven't defined our router link right now, but we will do it later. And have the mat icon home, and make sure that it should be in a small case. So if you write it in capital letter H, it will not work that properly. So make sure that it is in a small letter, then it will work fine. Now let's add some other links also. So here we have the link for users. Now we have the link for add user, and its route will be user/add, and we will define that route later, so do not worry about it. And its route is /users. Okay, so let's see how is our app looking. Right now it is looking very fine. We also need to define something here. So here we will have this div outside the mat side nav, and it have this class, and we have defined this class here in the CSS file, example side nav content, which is a flex box with height 88%. okay, and here we are going to define this router outlet, and all the content pages will be defined here. Okay, so here all the content pages will be defined. If I write here this, so here we will define our content pages. Okay, so this designing part is done right now. Now open the nav component.scss file again, and we are going to define some more styling here. So side nav item will be flex, and inside that side nav item we have the mat icon, which will be defined in the middle. Okay, so if we check our design now, it will be look like this. So we have done our basic stuff right now, so we can move to the routing part now. So let's close this thing and this thing also, and let it open. Right, app.module.ts, we will need this later. So here what we are gonna do, let's close this thing and open the routing file. So inside the app we have this app.routing.module.ts file, but before that we need to define some some components. So type here ng-gc and component/not found, and it will create a not found component for us. We also need this component, load users, and after that we are going to create one more component. We have to wait for it. Okay, so let's add the add users component. Add update users. Okay, let's enter, and it will create the component for us. So till then, let's go here the component section, and we can see this not found component. And let's open this file, and let's just see 404 page not found. Okay, now we can define our routes here. Now let's define our routes here. So first route will be user/add, Next one will be user slash edit slash add, and its component will be add update users component. Next will be users, and another one will be blank, and it will be redirect to the users. So if we don't pass any path, so by default it will be redirect to the users, this one. Okay, now we need to define a wildcard path. So if that path does not exist, it will go to the not found component. So if I click here and press Ctrl dot, it will import this component for us and add this line here. Okay, press Ctrl, go there and click the mouse here, press Ctrl dot and press enter, and go there, press Ctrl dot and enter. Okay, so what it is basically doing for us, it is importing these components here in the top of the file. Now we have defined our route. So if we go here, so you can see load user work, add update user works. So our routing is working fine. Now let's just see what is happening here. Before, I was not able to call the API with the localhost 4200, and I have restarted the Visual Studio Code and reload this project again, and now it is working fine. Now we need to display these records in the our Angular application. For that, we need to define some modules here. So we need to import this mat table module from Angular slash material slash table, and here we need to add this thing into our import array. Okay, now we are good to go. Now let's work on the load user component. So we need to import some thing here like this ng on init method. For that ng on init method, we need to import this on init. So make sure you have imported it here. Now we need to import mat table data source, and it is needed for our mat table. We will see it later why we need this. And we need this user model and this user service. Now we need to implement the onInit method, and now we have implemented onInit interface. Now we have to define the onInit method inside this class. So here we have defined our ng onInit method, which is a void type. Now we need to define a constructor, and we will inject our user service there so that we can use the functionality of user service. Okay, now we need to define a property data source, which will be initialized here. So we'll write new mat table data source, and inside Angular bracket we will pass user model. So here we are creating the instance, such a simple stuff. Now we need to define data columns, and it is an array of string, and these are the columns that we are going to display in our table. So if you had other columns in your database, so you have to define there, but our database contains only 3 methods, or ID, name, or email, so we are going to define it here. Now we need a method that will load the user from the database. So just type there this user service dot get users dot subscribe, and we will pass an observable or whatever it is subscriber object inside this. So we need a next method for this, which will provide us the response from the service, and we will assign the response dot users into this dot data source dot data. Okay, now here we are defining the error section, and we will simply log the error in the console. Now at the final, we will call our load user method inside this ng on init. Now we are done here. Now we will move to the UI part. For that, we need to open this file, which is this one, load users.component. So open that file. Now we are gonna implement some UI part here. So now simply type here users inside the h2 tag. So it will define the heading in the top of the page with users. Now we need to define a div and put a condition here. If data source dot data dot length is greater than 0, then we are fine. Otherwise we will go to the wait section, and here inside this ng template we will define a variable wait. Now if it doesn't satisfy this condition, it will move to the wait section and simply print this message, either fetching records or there are no records. Now we need to define a table with this tag mat table. Data source equals to data source, class equals to mat elevation g8, and define these tr section here. Now define ng container here, and it is a row for our application, table. So here mat column definition id and mat header cell asterisk mat header cell definition id, and here one td with mat cell definition equals to let element dot id, and you can change that element to anything like user. So you can also write let user then user dot id. It's totally up to you. Now we will define another column definition, which is name here, and the cell and the same stuff again, and we will do the same thing for the email. Okay, so let's check it in browser. So let's open it here and let's see, are we getting any error or not. Okay, so we are getting these records here, so we are fine now. And now we will define one more column here, which is action. There we will define edit and delete button. For that, what we have to do, we just have to define inside this array one more value, which is action. Fine. So now in the load user dot component dot html page, we will define the same thing, ng container mat call definition, which will be action. Then we will define a table header with mat header cell definition, and it has the name action. Now define a td mat cell definition let user data, and you can also write it user data. You can also define other name here like user rather than user data, and like I have defined before element, you can also write here let element. That is fine, that is totally up to you. And here class equals to action link, anchor tag mat icon button, and it will create an icon button for us. It will have a color accent mat icon, and we will define an edit icon here. Now we need another button here with color 1 and mat icon button delete. So let's see, is it working fine or not? So it is working fine, absolutely fine, but the color is not working that fine. So it's okay, by the way. Okay, now we need to define a paginator in our application. So here inside the material website, we are gonna select the where it is paginator p. Yeah, here it is, paginator, and we can copy this thing and paste in our project. So we're gonna import this thing here and add this match paginator module inside the import section. Okay, now we are absolutely fine. So let's save this thing and move here to the load user component .html, and here we need to define our paginator. So for that we have to write here mat paginator. Inside that we need to define length, and we're going to assign page length width that will be declared inside the TypeScript file of this component. We will define this thing later, and we are also going to define page index in the later part. Now the page size property, the page size options, it will be an array that we will define inside the component.ts file. And so first last button equals to true, and it will show the first and the last button in the paginator. Now here it is an event when we click on next or previous button or first or last button. This event will trigger a method, and this method will be a change page, and we are going to pass the event here, and we will also define this method later in the TypeScript file. And last thing, area label, which is select page, and that is fine. So here we have defined our paginator. So this is our paginator. Now we need to move the load user.component.ts file. So what we are going to do here, first of all, we need to import this page event so that we can utilize this method change page. Okay, now we need to define the page size options for this page size option property. Now we need to define page size for this page size property. Now we need to define page index, which will be 0 by default, and page length equals to 0, and we will load the page length from the database. Okay, we are good so far. And here we have the page size option 3, 6, 9 and 12. Even you can change it with 5, 10, 15, 20 or 10, 15 or 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever you like. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to pass these two arguments here inside the get users method, because we are going to use the pagination in this get user method. So we are going to pass the page index and page size. So page index is by default 0, so we are going to add 1 so that we can pass it as a 1. Now the current page will be 1 for the index 0. Okay, now we need to set this page length, and which we will get from the response.count. Okay, now we need to define that change page method that we have defined here. Okay, now it will take one argument as a event, which is a page event type. So for that we have defined this line earlier. Okay, so now what we are going to do, just add this dot page size and initialize event dot page size into this, and we will set this dot page index equal to event dot page index. Okay, so we are good so far. So let's save this application and see what we are looking here. Okay, now you can see we have defined our paginator here. So these are 3, 6, 9, 12, and these things we have set here inside this page size option 3, 6, 9, 12. So by default we are gonna display 3 records, but we only have 3 records in our database, so we cannot go further in the next page. So we will see this pagination result when we add another record. Okay, so let's add one more record here in the db.json file, and let's name it for Zane, and Zane equals zane.gmail.com. Let's add one more record. It will be 5, and let's name it json @yahoo.com. So we have added 2 more records. So let's see, will it be loaded or not? I guess I need to restart the server. So press Ctrl C, it will terminate this job, and type here again npm run API. Let's see it will be affected or not. Okay, now we have restarted our server. Now let's see here, and let's refresh this thing. Okay, now we have 5 records and it is displaying 1 of 3 records. If I click on the next page, it is saying displaying 4 to 5 records, but it is not not displaying the 4th and 5th record. So let's see what happened there. Okay, and I know what's happening here. We need to call this method here, which is load users whenever the change page event occur. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it is fine. So here we are in the last page, we are in the first page, we are in the next page, we are in the previous page. Okay, now everything seems fine. Now we need to define the functionality for this edit and delete buttons. Okay, so first of all I need to define this thing, which is here. We need to define private router, and if I press enter here, it will add this line in the top, import router from angular/router, because in the edit method we need to move to the different route, so we need this service for that. We are gonna define on btn edit method, so it is on btn edit, and I need to remove that line. Okay, and it will take an ID and it will be a void type. Now we are gonna move to the next location from there, so we will just write here this .router.navigate, and it will take an array. Inside that array we are gonna pass this path user/edit and along with ID. So when we click on the button, edit button, so we will move to this location after that. Okay, now we need to define the delete method. Okay, now let's define that method here. So it will be on button delete, which will take one argument of number type, and it is our ID that we will pass from the front end or the HTML end. Now it will be a void type, and we are gonna check a condition here. So what we will do here, we will basically ask user that do you want to delete this record or not. So it will first we will prompt alert there, then user can select whether he want to delete record or not. So for that, simply we are gonna type window.confirm and a message, are you sure to delete? If user is sure, it means if he had pressed OK button, then he will move inside this method. Okay, so here we will call the delete service method, delete method from this service. So simply just call this delete method and let's subscribe this and call this next method. Here we are getting a response, and if we will check a condition here, if this dot data source dot data dot length equals to 0 and this dot page index is greater than 0, simply decrease the page index by 1 and load the user at the end. So why do we need this condition? I will show you later. So first of all, let's save this thing and let's comment this line, then I can show you why do we need this line here. So everything is working fine, but we need to define the click event there. Okay, so for that we have to move to the HTML part and we are gonna define a click method here. So go here in this section where we have defined our action links, edit and delete. So just define here a click event that will call this on btn edit method and pass user data.id there, and here define another click method that will call on btn delete, and here it will be get a user data.id, and we can change it if we want because we have defined element there in the previous record. So I'm just gonna change it to element. Now we are good to go. So let's move here. Okay, so right now if I click here in this edit icon, so we can move into this location, and if I click on next button, so okay, so I guess something wrong happened here, so just move there and let's see. Okay, here something happened, this dot load users. Okay, so I think it should work now. So yeah, we are fine now. So here if I click on this delete button, so it is asking us, are you sure to delete? No, I'm not sure this time. But now if I click on OK button, it will delete an item, and again it is deleting an item. Now you are seeing that it is not displaying any record, so that's why I have added this condition here. Okay, it is happening basically because it has a page index 2 this time, and when it is trying to access the data with the page index 2, sorry, that was not 2, that is 1, because first index will be 0 and 1. Now here we have the page index 1, and with page index 1 we don't have any records. So when we have this condition arrived, when we have page record equals to 1 and there is no data with that record, with that page index, so we are simply gonna decrease that index. So when we are done with deleting all the records from this index, we will decrement the value of index. So what we were doing here basically. Okay, now that problem should be fine. So let's try to add records one more time, because we have deleted these records. So let's add 2 more records for Matthew, Jen, and let's add one more, and that should be Mike at gmail.com, and we are fine now. So we need to restart the server again for that. So let's press Ctrl C, Y, and npm run API. Now we should be fine, and yeah, we are good. Now let's refresh this page. Now if we remove this record and this record, so we are displaying these 3 records, so we are good now. Now let's do one thing here. Let's go there in the button section. We are gonna import this mat button. So copy this line and open the app module and paste it here, and just paste this mat button module here. Okay, now we go there and we are able to see the color of these buttons, and it is working just fine. So that's why the links are not working here, because we haven't defined the mat button module. Okay, so we are good in this section. Now we will work on this add user section. Okay, so now first of all we need to define a class here inside the models folder. So here inside the model folder we are going to create a class, my error state matcher.ts. okay, now we need to import some modules here. So first we need to import this form control component, then this form group directive ng form from angular/forms. okay, now we need to import error state matcher from angular/material/core. now we need to define a class here, export class my error state matcher, and this class will implement error state matcher. Now we are going to define this method and check that this method will take an argument which is control, which is a type of form control, or it can be nullable, and another argument will be form, which will be form group directive type, next or ng form. It is also a nullable, and this method returns a boolean value. Now here we will check that if a form is submitted or not. For that we are gonna check if form and form dot submitted, then we are gonna return this thing. Okay, so I will show you what is going here. So here we are checking that if form is submitted or not, and we are returning if control is not empty and control is not invalid, and this whole condition where we are checking control is dirty or control is touched or control is submitted, and this whole thing is converted into a boolean by this double negation method. So this double negation method is converting it to the boolean value. Okay, so now we have defined this error state matcher here. We do not need this thing, so we can close this. Now let's open this add update folder, and here we will open this HTML file, not this. First we will open this TypeScript file. So here, this one. Okay, so now we need to define a constructor here. So just type ctor and it will create a constructor for us. Now we need to inject few services here. So first thing we will inject here this form builder, and let's add one more service here, which will be activated route, and this thing user service for interacting with our web API, and this last thing is snack bar for displaying the message. So for this snack bar we have to import a module, but before that we need to resolve this thing. So click on this form builder and press Ctrl dot, press enter. It will add this line here. Okay, so let's do the same thing here, same thing here, and same thing will not happen here because we do not have any module here right now, so we have to import it. So here just find this snack bar, here it is. So go here in the API section and just paste it here. Okay, so paste it here, that is fine, and copy this guy and paste it here also. So that is the trick here. Now if I press Ctrl dot here, now we have this option add import from dash dash dash. Okay, now we are fine, we don't have any error, and we have successfully imported our services. Now here we need to import some modules, so we will import this on init and this form group validators. Now we need to implement this on init interface, and we will define here the form frm, which will be type of form group, and we need to define that on init method, otherwise this error is not gonna resolve. So just write here ng on init, which will be void type, and we are good, there is no error now. Now we will initialize the value of frm here, so just type this .fv.group and it will take an object. Inside that object we will provide id and its default value will be 0, and we will provide a name with default value empty string, and it will be a required field, and we need another field here which will be email, and we will do same thing here, but it need one more validation which will be validators.email. Now we are good, so we can save this thing and we can go here and let's import something from here. So first of all we need to import this card, so copy this guy and go there and paste it here, and just copy this and paste it here. Okay, and we need to import, I guess, one more thing, this form field. So go to the API section and copy this guy. Okay, so let's go the top, copy this guy and paste this guy after the comma, mat form field module. Okay, now we can move to the HTML page of this add update user component.ts. But before that, we need to define some fields here or properties here. So first one will be action, and it will be by default add. So we'll see later why do we need this. Next one, we will define a property here with which is getter property. So and its name is f, and it will simply return the controls, and this property or this getter method, whatever it is, will be used for the validation purpose. And now we need to define this thing, error matcher equals to new error state matcher. And if you remember, we have created this error state and my error state matcher method here. So here we have this class, so we are using this thing inside our add update component.ts file. Okay, so simply just press Ctrl dot here and it will add an import statement here. Now we are good to go. And now we need to import one more module, which is input module, mat input module. So click here in this input section and just copy this guy, and we have to import lots of modules because we are using the I have pasted into a wrong section because we are using Angular material here, so we have to import all of these modules here. So let's paste this thing and we are good to go. Now we can use mat input fields. So we are going to work on add update user component.html file now. But before that, let's create an empty method here. We are not defining its functionality. It is just for fun right now. It will be an onPost method. So it's just an empty method and we will define its functionality later. It is also a void type. You can define void here also. Now open this add update user.component.html file. But before that, let's go here in our style.scss file and let's define some utility class. So this one will be w80 and its width will be 80%. Okay, so we can close it now and we can go here. So we need to define a mat card here. Its width will be 50% and it will have this tag mat card header and mat card title, and our title will be user, and this value of action will be decided in the TypeScript file. So it will contain a mat card content. Inside that we will define a button and mat raised button color equals to accent, and it have this router link which will bring us back to the users, so user can directly go to the user section by clicking in that button. So it is button. Now we will define a form and hashtag or hash user form equals to ng form, and we are defining this template variable here so that we can access into the into our TypeScript file for the validation, sorry, not validation purpose, so that we can reset our form. We will see it later. So and now form group equals to frm, which we have defined here. This dot frm we have defined it here, so we are using it there. And the submit equals to onPost, we have defined this method here. Right now it doesn't have any functionality, but we will define it later. So ng submit equals to onPost. Now we have a input type hidden, which will be an ID, and now we need to define a form field with W80, which we have defined earlier in the styles.css file. It will have a label with name and input, mat input, form control name, and here error state matcher equals to error matcher for the validation purpose. Now we can define mat error so that we can show the validation errors here. So we are checking this condition. If fname.errors.required, if it satisfies this condition, we will show a message name is required. Now we will define another form field with width 80. It will be an email, its name will be email, and error, same thing, error state matcher placeholder equals to xyz.com. Here we will define the validation error required message, email is required, and now we will display a button here. That is fine. It will be a matte raised button. Its color will be primary, and it will be disabled until a form is valid, and its name will be decided on the TypeScript file. So if we go here and refresh our page, we will see it here, and we are gonna define one more validation condition here. So copy this thing and paste it here, and if we type here email, so it will display a email validation error also. So invalid email ID, we will write here invalid email ID. So we have designed our front end here completely. Now we can define that on post method. So first of all, let's test this thing. If I type here ABC and ABC at the rate XYZ, now that button is displayed here. So validations are working very fine. Here it is displaying the message email is required, name is required. So everything is working just fine. Now we need to work on this method, on post method. Now we want to access this thing, user form, in our TypeScript file, component.ts file. So we need a view child decorator for that. So here we will write view child, and inside that we will write user form, which is defined here, user form. Okay, so and the name of property will be USR form, and it will be type of ng form. Now press Ctrl dot here, it will import this line, and press Ctrl dot here, and we can do it right. So it will be used for resetting the form validation messages. Okay, so that's why we are using this thing. Okay, now let's define the on post method here. So type here this dot user dot service dot add user, and we will pass this dot frm dot value inside that method. And now we will subscribe this method. For that we need to provide a next, and inside the next we will get the argument data, which will give us response. So here on the success of that service, we will reset our form, and we will reset our validations. So reset will empty our form or reset our form, and this dot user form dot reset form, this method will reset our validations. Now here we will open a snack bar message. So pop-up, it will pop up a message that you have successfully added the data, something like this. So here it will type a message which is success, and it will have a close button below, and it will automatically closed after 3 seconds. Okay, now we will do the same thing here inside the error method. We will log that method, that error, and we will open the snack bar, and that snack bar will be closed on the duration of 3 seconds. So let's go here and let's try to add a record. So let's just type ravindra.xyz.com. If I click on this add, it will display the success. So let's see, do we have added that record? Yeah, we have added this record, Ravindra. So it is working fine. Now we need to define this edit functionality. Now we are going to define a method which will get us a data with data by the help of ID. So let's define this method here. So it will be a method that will fetch user from the database, and here it is the method get user by ID. Here we will find the ID from the query or query parameters. So if we have passed user/1, then the value of this ID will be 1 here. So we will check. If ID is not null, then this dot action will be update, and we will fetch the record from the user service, and its method will be get by ID. We will pass the ID in that method, we will subscribe it, and we will define the next method here. And here we are simply updating the value of FRM. Now we are defining here the error method and simply logging the error inside the console log. So it is our basic get user by ID, and I should write here fetching the user by ID from the database. Okay, now what I need to do, I just need to call this method here. So we have to write this line here, and then everything will be fine. So just save it. Now let's run this project. Okay, now if I click on this edit button, which is max, so here let's type the max 11, and here type max 11. Let's update this thing, and here we are getting the success method, which will be automatically closed after 3 seconds. Now here if we go inside this user section, we will see that we have this record max 11 and email ID max11@gmail.com. So our functionality has been completed. So that's it for now. If you find this video helpful, then please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed this channel, you can also subscribe it. So I will see you next time.